One thing today that I was thinking about was the idea of how much of a privilege it is for us to be able to worship. I was reading, and I'm reading right now in the book of Hebrews, and how it talks about the idea that no one was able to go behind the Holy of Holies. Only one person, once a year. And the Holy of Holies is where God's presence dwells. It's where God's presence manifests, and He lands, and He just hangs out with His people. And back then they weren't able to do that. And we have an opportunity every day, not just on Sundays, but we have an opportunity every day to come into God's presence, to be in God's presence, to worship God, to know God, to hang out with God, to speak to God, to ask God questions, to just be in His presence and linger. As we continue today we're just talking about living to please God, living a life that pleases God. And so since pleasing God is the main purpose of our life, the most important task for us to do is to find out how to do that. How do we please God? How can we make God happy with our lives? How can we live our life in such a way that we honor God, but we also please Him? Alright, so like let's say God calls you and He says, Pastor Susie, I want you to build a boat. And most of the time, if God says, Stephen, I want you to build a boat, I'm going to say, well, I don't know how to build a boat. My dad never taught me how to build a boat. I don't have the tools to build a boat. And what is this rain stuff that you're talking about? It's going to rain. How am I supposed to get all these animals? So growing up, I never really had pets. I didn't really care for pets. We have a dog that's at my parents' house because I personally don't want to deal with them and it's too much pet rent. But how am I going to get hundreds or thousands of animals if I never taken care of animals? I don't know how to feed animals. I took care of 4 horses for 3 years and I didn't like that. So I don't want to have all these animals. So God's calling me. He's saying, you know what? I want you to get all the animals or the kinds of animals that are going to reproduce and create other animals. And I want you to do that. I would have questions. I will make up excuses. I would delay obedience. And that's not exactly what I would want to do in my life. But how would you react to that? We would question ourselves. We would question God. Did God really say this? Am I hearing things? Did the food that I ate yesterday really mess with me and I'm kind of hearing things? We would question ourselves. We would question God. We wouldn't be happy and say, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. I'm going to go ahead and do that. We don't know how to build a boat. Animals don't smell pleasant. I don't really want to do that. So imagine telling the local people, okay, all right, you got over all of your emotions, you got over all your questions, and then you're finally like, okay, God called me to build a boat. He's going to give me directions, and He's going to give me the measurements. He's going to give me the tools, and He's going to help me build the boat. But now you start telling people, hey, there's a flood coming. There's flood coming. There's rain that's going to come down from the sky. There's water going to come down from the sky. And this whole earth is going to be covered. And you have to change the way that you're living because right now you're not living to please God. So if you don't, you're going to be flooded. That's kind of crazy, right? Because the people aren't going to respond because we know in the Bible that only Noah and his family are the only people that live. So the people didn't respond well. They didn't look at him and say, okay, Noah, I'm going to help you build this boat. I'm going to join you and help you build this boat. But instead, they probably thought he was crazy. They probably made fun of his kids. 120 years. It took 120 years. We do things for a few weeks. We do things for a few months. We do things for a few years and we want to quit. He did this for 120 years. And he didn't quit. And he kept working at it. He's building the boat. And the boat's getting bigger. And rooms are getting storage and things like that. And so the boat is coming together. But there's no rain. And he's still staying focused. And he's still saying, okay, God, you called me to do this. I'm going to do it. No one's coming to help me. No one's coming alongside of me. It's just me and my family. I feel like I'm failing. God, this is not making sense. They're making fun of me, the crazy old man that's building a boat in his front yard. But he stayed focused. Most people, especially coming up soon, in New Year's Eve, you're going to see the rates of people going to the gym is going to skyrocket. But we don't stick with those things because after a few weeks, people are not going to go back to the gym. They're going to give up going on the gym. They're going to give up their New Year's resolution. They're going to give up on their diets. They're going to give up all these things because once it gets hard, we want to quit. Once it gets hard, we want to let go. Once we don't get the rest of the world to come alongside of us and help us build this vision that God gave us, we want to stop. But Noah didn't stop. He continued to build. He continued to stay focused. He continued when it got hard. He didn't complain. He didn't make excuses. He believed and he pressed in and he pressed forward. And we have to do the same thing. We stop expecting things from God. God gives us a vision. He gives us a dream. He gives us some passion inside of us. But once that passion goes away, then we let the vision go and we want to give up. We stop expecting God to move. We stop expecting that, and we stop believing that God is good. We have to remember that God keeps His promises. He always keeps His promises, regardless of how long it takes. And even though whenever we don't keep our promises, He's a God that does impossible things, and He's a God that keeps His promises. He's not going to stop. So we have to keep believing, but we have to keep believing that it's going to come to pass. When God calls us, we must not delay. So it's funny because when me and Susie were dating in college, and somebody would ask, oh, can you do this, or can you do that, or, what are you doing on this day? I would say, and they would say, oh, can you come help me with this, or can you help me with that? I would say, well, let me pray about it. And part of it was so I could pray. The other part was so I can ask Susie and make sure that our schedule, she doesn't have something planned, because sometimes she would have something planned, and if I would double book, then like men, which we always do, we don't get our schedules together, then we end up doing too many things. We end up overworking ourselves. We're going crazy trying to help this person and that person and this person. In college, we were basically free labor. We helped out whatever it was. With any and everything we helped out. They said, oh, we need you to be here. We need you to be here. We didn't really get an option to say yes and no. But as we started working and as we started doing other ministries, then we had to learn to say no. I'm sorry, but I can't do that. And so sometimes we try to be real spiritual with God. Because God calls us and He says, I want you to do something. I want you to do something for me. And we say, okay, God, hold on, let me go pray about it. Or someone calls us and says, this is the call God put on your life. And we say, okay, hold on, let me go pray about it. God says, okay, I want you to do this. And we say, wait, God, let me go pray about it. He's like, who are you going to pray to? I'm the one telling you to do it. And we try to be spiritual, but really what we're doing is we're delaying our obedience. We delay our obedience. And so, yes, we become yes men sometimes, and we say, okay, I'm going to do this and we'll do that. And we try to delegate things, and we tell people, okay, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do this for me, I need you to do this for me. And they become yes men. They don't pray about it. We have a lot of good starters. We have people that start reading books. We have people that start dieting. We have people that start a lot of stuff, but we don't have a lot of finishers. We don't have a lot of people that are putting in the work until they see it to come completion. And I've seen many of that. I don't like to delegate things because I don't see a lot of finishing sometimes. So I have to end up doing everything, and it takes a lot more energy and a lot more work. And they say, well, let me pray about it. Like, look, this is what you're called to do. So do it until it's finished. So sometimes we make lists and we say, okay, God, I'm going to follow what you said partially. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Delayed obedience is still disobedience. And so sometimes we say, okay, I'll make a list of the commands that I'm going to follow, and then I'll make a list of the commands I'm not going to follow. So the ones that are unreasonable, the ones that we think that are difficult, the ones that are costly, the ones that are unpopular, those are the ones I'm not going to do. But I'll do the easy ones. I'll go to church. Even though sometimes it's kind of hard because a lot of people don't really go to church. But I'm not going to tithe. I'll go to church, but I'm not going to give money. I'm not going to give an offering. I'm not going to support this ministry. So I'll go to church, but I'm not going to give money. Or I'll read my Bible, but I'm not going to forgive that person that hurt me. Even though Jesus forgave me after hurting him multiple times over and over and over and over. So partial obedience is still disobedience. We say, God, I'll give you a little bit of this, but I'm going to keep a lot of that. I'll give you a little bit of this, but I'm going to keep a little bit of that. So we try to negotiate with God what we're going to do, and we tell Him what we're going to do instead of allowing Him to tell us what He wants us to do. You can see now that we please God, not by only what we believe, but by what we do. In James chapter 2, verse 24, it says, we don't only please God with what we believe, because sometimes, especially in the Western culture, it's all about the thinking. It's all about the thinking. I believe Jesus is God. I believe the Trinity. I believe, we have these creeds that we say, and we say over and over. I believe Jesus is the Son of God. He was born. He died on the cross. He rose again. These are beliefs. This is what separates us from Mormons, Jehovah's Witnesses, from Muslims. So these are important. We have to have the right beliefs. If we believe Jesus was only a person, there's no way He could have saved us from sin and from death. If we believe that Jesus he just looked like a man, or that He was just a prophet, then He was not the Son of God who can save us. So this is very important. Our beliefs are absolutely important. They separate heretics from those who have orthodoxy and right beliefs. But the problem is when we think that our beliefs and what we think and what we believe are separated from our actions. If we believe that there is a dying generation around us, if we believe that Jesus has died on the cross so that the whole world will be saved, that everyone will have an opportunity, then we need to be out there talking to people. Because our beliefs are separated from our actions. Our thinking and our beliefs are separated from our actions. And we need to reunite them. They need to be together. They need to be connected. What we believe and what we do both please God. If we believe right but we don't act it out, it's not pleasing to God. All of our abilities are pleasing to God, not just the spiritual stuff. And again, I think that that's important. I've been saying this a few weeks, and I'm going to continue to reiterate it, because what we do is pleasing to God. If we repair a machine, we sell a product, if we're coding, if we're growing crops, if we're raising a family, if we're making music, if we're learning mathematics, if we're mechanics, this is pleasing to God. This pleases God when we do what we were created to do. Those desires inside of us, those passions inside of us, the things that are inside of us that God put there are pleasing to God. God doesn't want us to just be mature and then He'll start liking you. God doesn't wait and say, okay, now you're mature, now you're doing what you're supposed to do, now you're praying, you're reading, you're loving, you're doing all the good stuff, now I'll start liking you. That's not the way it works. And I think that's important because sometimes we raise standards higher on other people than we do on ourselves. Jesus mentioned this when He says, there's a little small speck in someone else's eye, but there's a 2x4 in your own eye. We're looking at other people and we're seeing they got a small little thing in their eye. And we criticize them, we talk about them, we don't help them, we break them down, but we don't see what's in our own eye. Sometimes we have blind spots that we don't really notice. And so it's important for us to understand that. Because we have higher standards for other people than we do for ourselves. And sometimes we put high standards on ourselves and say, God's not going to love me if I'm not reading 5 hours a day, if I'm not praying 2 hours a day, if I'm not going out and talking to people about Jesus all day, every day. And that's not the case. Those things should happen, but they have to happen out of love. When we love God, we love spending time in His presence. We love going to church. We love serving the church. We love serving other people. We love talking to Him. We love praying. We love reading. We love telling other people about Him when we love. When we don't love, then going to church is a duty. When we don't love God, then witnessing is a duty. Reading our Bible is a duty. Praying is a duty because we don't love. We don't know Him. We're not connected to Him. We think we have to do this so He can love us, but that's not the case. He loves us. And when we love Him, when we get in connection with Him, then we start doing these things. He knows that we are incapable of being perfect. He knows that we can't be sinless. It takes the pressure off. When we look at the attitude, God looks at the attitude of our hearts. Am I here and am I trying to know God? Am I trying to seek God? Am I trying to learn about Him? Or am I going to church because I want to bribe God to let me into heaven? When we die, we get to heaven, we say, God, I went to church every Sunday. I read my Bible and I read a verse every day. God, you have to let me in. I was in your house. We try to bribe God. And then He asks, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? What about the condition of your heart? What were the real true motives of your heart? Are we trying to see how much pleasure we can bring to ourselves, or are we trying to see how much pleasure we can bring to God? So in everything that we do, in everywhere that we go, and how we live, and how we act, and how we carry out our lives, is it pleasing God, or is it pleasing ourselves? And then, what we believe has to be connected with what we do. What we do. How we think about God. If we think that God is omnipresent, He's everywhere at the same time, then when we're outside of church, we should be living the same way that we are when we're in church. There's some people that don't curse when they're in church because they're saying, oh, I'm in God's house. I can't disrespect God like that. But when they're outside of church and they're with their friends or their family or at work, they're looking at certain things, they're drinking certain things, they're smoking certain things, they're watching certain things, they're cursing and saying certain things, as if God is not there too. As if God is almost only limited to a building. As if God is not everywhere watching, looking, and seeing like, man, that's my son. Look at him. Wait, why is he saying that? Why is he acting like that? Why is he living like that? Because a few days ago, or a day ago on Sunday, he was praising, he was worshiping, he was singing, he was serving, he was opening the door, he was helping, he was doing all these things. Why is he treating women like this? Why is he talking about people like this? Why is he not living the way I saw him before? And so we have to check our hearts and see, are we really pleasing God? Are we really living in such a way that is pleasing to God? So I just challenge you that for this week and for the rest of your lives, to look and see what you think and what you believe and how you act. Are they measuring up? Are they at the same place, or are they different? What you believe and how you act different. Because if what you believe and how you act are different, then how you act is really what you believe. Because what you think and what you believe is not really what you believe. It's in your head, but it's not in your heart, so it's not really truth for you. And I challenge you to look and see, if you believe that God is everywhere and omnipresent, then how you act outside the church, how you act outside the church should match with how you act inside the church. There shouldn't be any differences.